So we're talking about the interim assessments, right? These tests are designed for, quote, timely and periodic information based on local needs and goals. Now, this year we really didn't hit the timely, right? Because they were brand new and they didn't even get here until the end of January. So right now we have the ability to administer the interims. We have the ability to hand score the parts that need to be hand scored, but the reporting module doesn't come out until tomorrow, next week, any day now. So we almost have the whole system in place, but you know, we are definitely pilot testing the interims this year as opposed to making them an integrated part of the local assessment system. So the purpose, right? Feedback to inform instruction. So some of the assessments, the comprehensive, are really supposed to give you a really nice measure of where the kid is. They were designed to be administered mid-year, right? So where is this student on the way to the end of the year summative was what they were supposed to measure, and will measure, I mean, when we use them. They're also intended to replace or create, right, a benchmark for the middle of the year. So a lot of districts are looking at the comprehensives for that purpose. And then they're also could be used to assess the skills of incoming students. So if you get a kid who comes from another state, for example, you could use that test for that purpose. They are really designed to be used locally. I mean, the decisions about how to use them is left up to local LEAs, local districts and schools. The state is not going to mandate anything. They don't use the results for any purpose. It's all yours to use. Question?
And are the interims only for the grade levels that are assessed with the Smarter Balance Summit assessment?
I have a slide for that.
Okay.
They're created for those grades. In other words, there are interims for grades 3 through 8, and then there's a high school. So there aren't interims for, you know, specifically for 9th and 10th grade or 12th grade students, or for kindergarten through 2nd. There are two different kinds. So the first is the comprehensive assessment. This one has pretty much the same design as the summative assessment. It's really intended as a mirror of the summative assessment. And the big takeaway for that one is it takes exactly as much time to take that test as it does to take the summative assessment. So that's an investment. Takes the same scheduling, right, the devices. If you're going to administer the comprehensive school-wide, you're doing exactly the same thing that you would be doing for the summative to make that happen. It uses the same claims and standards, so keep that in mind. The blocks, though, assess smaller sets, right? So they pick out pieces from that comprehensive assessment, and teachers can use those discreetly. They can use them and plug them into their curriculum wherever it's most appropriate. So they're more flexible. The items for both of them are the same. Yes, question?
Question. It's been said that the use of interim assessments could arguably be a strong potential indicator for future student achievement success. Now I'm just wondering what your thoughts were,
Well,
considering the fact that there are so
again,
many similarities.
right, again, I'm looking for some specific directives from Smarter Balanced about that, but if you think about it, it would depend to a large extent. Are you also duplicating the environment of the summative assessment, right? Are you doing that exactly the same? So there are a lot of variables in there, and I think it would be good for us to have like a list of those variables if people are really intending to use them as predictive measures. I'm sure the psychometricians would have some, guidance around that, and I have not seen that in written form. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just I haven't seen it yet. It's not posted on the website yet. So thank you for that one. The items, though, what I wanted to share with you is the items for both the comprehensives and the blocks. They're the same items that are used for the summative. I mean, not the same items, the same types of items. They could just as easily have been used for the summative assessment as they are used for the interims. There was a big pool of items that was tested during the field test, right? They were validated. And then most of them were pulled over into the pool for the summative assessment because the summative assessment is adaptive this year. So that means you need approximately 10 times as many items, right, per test in order for it to be adaptive. So the bulk of the items got pulled into that summative assessment pool. The rest of them were left over and are being used in the interim assessment pool. But they come from the same place. They went through the same process of validation. They're different from the summative items in that once they're placed into that interim assessment pool, they're not secure anymore. Teachers can, teachers when they give the interims can walk around and interact with the students, so that goes back to the validity of the predictive nature, right? If you are interacting with students, which you can because they're not secure, then you're changing, right, what you can get from that assessment. So, but again, local use. They are administered exactly the same as the summative assessments. So this is important. They're online. There is no paper pencil version of the interim assessments. It uses the same teacher registration process, and this will be important if you do have like 9th grade teachers who want to use the interims, but they're not in TOMS because they're not test administrators normally. This year, the test will be a fixed length format, again, because of the number of items that are available. Next year, they anticipate having computer adaptive versions of the interims as well. So this is my chart that says what students can take what test, okay? Fondly known as the pantyhose chart, for those of you who remember those things. So on the left-hand side, these are the students. So these are my kids over here, right? On the left-hand side, these are the interim tests that are available across the top. So what it means for this year is if I'm a grade 4 student, right, I'm going to take the grade 4 interims. I may also be administered the grade 3 interims and the grade 5 interims. So the quick rule of thumb is that you can go up one grade or down a grade with students if you wish to. And if you notice for high school, for 8th grade and high school, they can take the high school exams as well, the tests. Also, we have given opportunities for kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2 to be able to have access to the grade 3 test. That's not so much the students as it is their teachers, right? So it's really more an opportunity, and I'll give Shasta County as an example. They have 20 different districts. They have a math collaborative for kindergarten. They have a kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade teacher from each of the schools in the collaborative that come together. They've been looking at the grade 3 standards, and now they're looking at the grade 3 tests, right? And the types of items that 3rd graders are being asked to respond to, and they're unpacking that to say, okay, if the student has to respond to this kind of item in 3rd grade, what could we be doing in 2nd grade to help prepare them for that? What could we be doing in 1st grade? What could we be doing in kindergarten? So they're trying to identify a progression that will help build both the technology skills and the thinking skills. Yes, sir?
On these interim assessments, is there a flexibility where they can start it and then, and then 2 days later pick up where they left off?
I believe so.
Because on the practice test, that's
right.
Correct me if I'm
You've
wrong,
never
that's a
been able to do
frustration.
that. Yeah, that's a good question, and I think so. I think you can start it and then go back to it.
Like a pause.
But like the block, I don't know that you would want to. There are not that many questions. But the comprehensive, I would think you could be able to do part of it and then go back to it. That's a good question. Robin, would you mind noting that? Because I'm old and I forget things. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. So let me get the answer to that, and I'll get that back to Robin, and she can shoot it back out to the rest of you. The other important thing for you to remember, and there's 2 things here that I'd like you to take away from this. One is a negative aspect of the interims is that there's no easy way for a teacher to go in and just look at the test, right? They can't just look at the test. We all know that. Everybody who's been excited and gone in, yeah, it's not good. Yes, so the department and Smarter Balance, this is a criticism that has been heard not just in California, but in all the states, right, that are using the interim. So they will be rectifying that. I just don't know how quickly, if we'll see it. It's interesting because some of these things like, boom, okay, here's the button, and it's there. So we'll see how quickly they get the button there. In the meantime, right, the only way really that you can look at the interims ahead of time is to, okay, now here's the other factoid, which is down low, so I'm going to read it. Each interim comprehensive assessment and block available to a student may be administered to that student twice during the 2014-15 year. right?
Do we get both scores or do they get the better score?
Oh, you get both scores. It doesn't give you the better score. It's an opportunity. Think of it in terms of a pre and post. Let's say I've got a little block on research, right? So I'm going to administer that to see how the kids do, and then maybe I'm going to teach, right? And then I'm going to administer it again to see if they do any better on it. So it really is to allow you to do a pre and a post on those things.
And
Question?
am I correct in my knowledge of that the block tests that each student can only take them twice?
Correct.
Okay.
They can only take them twice.
Yeah, so
That-
like the high school blocks, if they did like a pre and post in math 1, but then if they were to take math 1 another year because they didn't pass.
Well, a year resets at the bar.
Oh, a year, okay.
It resets. No,
okay, so
this
even
is
over
only for this year. Only for this year. Yeah, I don't even think you're going to have to take
So it won't be
this.
a problem, because I was told that they can only take it twice, and we have high school, we have the 3 years and the blocks and.
You only take it twice this
In a
year.
year,
This
okay.
year, yeah. Twice this year. Any of those blocks. So if I do my fourth grader again, I can take all of the fourth grade blocks twice. I can take all of the third grade blocks twice. I can take all of the fifth grade blocks twice.
What about next year?
Next year it resets.
So it's still just once?
I don't know. We don't know. We only know that there's a limit of 2 this year. Yeah, we don't know about next year. Question?
Is the cutoff June 30th? The reason I'm asking is we're doing some summer math bridge schools and we want to use the interims as pre and post.
Right.
So I was wondering when the reset is.
Okay. That's a really good question. Robin, would you mind writing? Do you mind writing? Thank you.
I don't mind at all.
I could chart, but I'm feeling like I don't want to. Okay, so we'll ask that question. Yes.
So the scores for, say, the high school exam, when that's given back to the teacher or the student, does it go to the teacher or?
The reporting?
Yeah.
Can you hold that for just a minute?
Okay, so
And
then
I
the
will
second-
cover, okay? Mhm.
The second part of my question then, which maybe you'll address as well, is it broken down so they can see which areas they scored better in and which areas they need more?
I have a slide for that too. Yes, I will get there as much as I know. Okay, but to finish what I wanted to tell you about this one, holding the thought that each kid can only take these blocks once, the workaround for teachers to be able to see these assessments ahead of time is to use a kid that is probably not going to take the block, right? You set up a test administration, you log in with a student who's not going to take that block, and then you can look at it from the student side, right? To see what, I'm sure you've probably all figured this out, but some people haven't struggled with it yet, so I'm trying to save them some time. So that's the workaround for this year. Does that make sense? So in other words, high school, a lot of people are using the 12th grade kids. They're logging on, you know, taking one of the 12th graders and just not submitting the answers. They're just going through and not submitting. But hopefully we'll have a straightforward way for teachers to preview the test before then. Any questions about that? Clear as mud, huh? All right, so these are the blocks that are available. And I wanted to make you aware that what we're learning here, what I want you to know here is, remember, we had not a ton of items left over, therefore not all the blocks are populated for this year. So that's what the red asterisk means. So if there's a red asterisk, in this case, the narrative performance task is available for grades 4 and 5, but that means it's not available for the third graders. So there's no third grade narrative performance task. The red asterisk here means there's no informational performance task for any of these grades this year, and the opinion, grade 3 only this year. So each of the grades has a performance task that you can give to them, and next year they'll have all of these. Does that make sense? Okay, so moving on, same thing for grades 6 through 8. Same thing for high school. So everything that doesn't have a red asterisk is going to be available. And I did want to point out here, there's for geometry for third graders, the reason there's nothing there is that there is no geometry block for third graders. So it's not missing, it just, they don't have that. So that's why it shows up that way on the block. Is it okay if I move quickly through these?
Yeah.
You guys okay with that? All right. They're in your slides, so you can look at it. The people who really feel so bad for them are the high school math teachers, because I think they have linear functions, quadratic functions, right triangle ratios, and the performance task. So the high school math teachers really don't have very many blocks to use this year, which makes me very sad because my experience is that the high school math teachers are the first people to adopt something like this and try it out. So it makes me very sad. Not in your district? Really? Is that true?
The
Wow.
last one's in ours.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Okay. See, my experience is the math teachers are like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And the language arts are like, I think we need to think about this. We need to talk about this. Yeah. And I'm a language arts person, so I get to make fun. All right. So the scoring, and this is going back to your questions about the reporting. Most of the items are scored by the test engine itself, right? They're going to be scored, but the constructed response and the performance tasks need to be they call it hand scored. It actually happens on a computer. They need to be locally scored. And once those items, right, the machine scores the bulk of them, then locally scored the rest of them, then the reports are generated, right, and produced. So I'm going to show you these. Now, some of you in the back can't see this, but down at the bottom is a link on the California Department of Education website. It links to this table, which is very useful. This shows for the interim comprehensive assessments. For grade 3, there are 47 items. There are 3 constructed response that need to be scored. There are 3 performance tasks and 1 essay. So this is to give your teachers an indication of if you choose to administer this interim, right, these are the numbers of items that will need to be scored before the report is produced. So it gives you all of the grade levels at that address. Yes?
When you say if you choose, does it have to be all or nothing, like can different teachers do it, or it has to be the whole school?
Oh, no, I completely encourage you to, the teachers that you have that want to check it out, have them do it. I mean,
even for next year, like, will it always be that way? That's what I'm wondering. Like,
it's always going to be optional how you use it. It's always going to be optional, but I would really encourage you, I mean, that's the whole point. Get in there and take a look at those things as much as you can, get the results back, see how they fit with what you're doing locally, because they're free. You know, they've been provided by the legislature, and you know, if we think they're valuable, if we learn 3 years from now that, oh yeah, these are cool, we want to use them, they might not be funded 3 years from now. So it really behooves us to do some exploration right now. Yes?
The people who are hand scoring those few items,
Yes.
they're available year-round. They do that all year.
That-
Whenever you want to give it, they're available to do it.
That is my understanding, yes. That is my understanding, because if you think about, we've got a school in Butte County that starts, I think they start in May. No, they end like before May. They end on like May 1st. So they start school in the summertime, right? And you've got schools that go way late too. So I can't imagine that they're not going to have the interims available. What I don't know is when the school year resets, if that probably happens on a district and school basis, but that's another issue in the back of it. So this table is for the comprehensives. There's also another table that shows the total number of items and hand scoring for the blocks. And this also limits it to just the blocks that are available this year, so that it's a really good table to share with your teachers again. So for example, this one, Edit Revise, it has no short answers, it has no essays. So there are 15 items altogether. None of them have to be hand scored, right? So if you go through, there are quite a few actually that don't have to be hand scored at all. So just so that you know this resource is here, I'll go to the next slide, and that's what it's, so English Language Arts, all grade levels, these 3 blocks require no hand scoring. For mathematics, the only blocks that need to be hand scored are the performance tasks. So you can get in there with math and not worry about hand scoring at all. So again, I would encourage you to, you know, take a look at these blocks and see how they fit with what you're doing. People visualize the red box around test administrator interface, right? That's where you're going to go to get to the interims. And when you click on the test administrator interface from CASP.org, then you're going to get the login screen, right? So this is only people who are registered as TOMS users are able to get to this, right? So if you think about if you have any 9th grade teachers that want to use use the interims, or if you have, maybe you have a second grade teacher who wants to give the third grade test to some of their kids. It's possible. They're going to need a login to Tom's. And then once they get, there we go, once they get in and administer it, where you go to hand score is the same thing. There's a button that says the hand scoring system, right?
Are other districts having problems with logins?
Yes.
We've
There
had
have-
extreme
yes.
problems where we cannot get our teacher logins.
Yes, there have been problems with the TOMS logins. There have been problems with the digital library logins. We've had issues with both of them.
Is that being worked on?
Yes, they're both being worked on. And that's, I mean, how I can't help fix those, especially TOMS, there's nothing I can do to help fix them. I can help provide, troubleshooting in terms of putting you in touch with the right person. But honestly, your best bet for trouble with TOMS logins is really to go directly to the Caltech Help Desk website. That's really the right place to go. Yeah, and then if you're not getting responses, then if you want to send me an email, I would be very happy to try to use whatever small influence I have to help. Okay. So yeah, the logins. So they're really just part of the CASP system. I'm going to go back one slide here because I don't have a slide because, as I said, I don't have access. But once you get into the CASP system, if you remember, you have the option to start a test session and you select the test, right, that you're going to start. And it's the same with the interims. So you pick the grade level that you want to be assessing, and then you're either going to pick the blocks or you're going to pick the comprehensive. So you're identifying the test that your students then will log on through the secure browser, and then you'll start the test session the same way you do. It's exactly the same. Down at the bottom, which I didn't mention, where you can't see it in the back, there's a resource guide for administering the online test assessment. So there's the link for the instructions, step by step, for how to administer the interim assessments. So that's a valuable document. Okay, so now I'll go forward. The hand scoring. So the hand scoring is the same. You click on hand scoring system again, you're going to get the login for TOMS. So anybody who's hand scoring also has to have a TOMS login. And what it looks like here, when you get into it, is that they're going to enter, the hand scorers are going to score, and there probably are some people here who have done it, who know more about this than I do. Feel free, if anybody's gotten in here and wants to address these slides, you're very happy. I'm very happy to share the mic with you. But the score, you can either enter it or you can use the up and down buttons, right, to enter. This one here is a max of 4 points, so you would be entering the score of what the student gets. If the student's response is not one that can be scored straightforwardly, then there are condition codes for that particular item that you can use. The purpose of showing you this, let me see if the next, no. Right now, or if you went into this a while ago, are there any of you who went into it right after the interims were released and went into the hand scoring module right after they were released? And if you looked at the exemplars, there was a lot of white space in there. I'm not seeing any head nods, so I'm going to move on and tell you what's there now. I was going to be sympathetic with you, but you haven't suffered enough for me to be sympathetic. So it's better now. So in this case, since you waited, it's better. Washington State developed resources that are more user-friendly, so they took all the white space out of those exemplars that were there. They repurposed them. They created prep sets for scoring, so they've got for each of the items or type of items, they have a prep set. They have a check set. So these are really great in terms of both helping an individual teacher understand how to score a particular item, or they can be used, right, for training purposes for you to help groups of teachers understand the items and how to score them so you can get some inter-rater reliability around these things. So this is really great news. Washington developed them. They also have a training guide that goes along with each of the exemplar sets. And where they're found, then, is right on that page, right? So if you click on the exemplars, you're going to get the prep and check sets for that particular item. And if you click on the training guide, you'll get the training guide for that item. So that's the good news. How many of you are training teachers to hand score these things? Not yet, but might you? You'll have to at some point.
They can't get into Tom, so
we haven't. been
So it's
able
kind
to-
of a moot point if they
Yes.
can't get into Tom's. Okay, so we should talk at the break. I need to know who you are. Okay.
Yeah, we're none
It's everybody. Well, luckily, I have a list of all of you. So if you want to come up and put a circle around your name, if you're having trouble with Tom's logins, then I can help check your institution and see. Okay? I would be happy to do that. Well, the digital library is a different thing. That's a different thing. So the results, now I'm going to talk about the reporting. So some of you were interested in the reports from the interims, and it's also going to be true for the summatives as well. We're going to get individual student results, right, from the comprehensives. And I'm going to go to the next slide to talk about what we get back. This is a mock-up from Smarter Balanced from about a year ago, but it's still pretty much got the essential information that we're going to get. We're going to get an overall scaled score. The difference between the mock-up and what we'll get is that the score that was finally, the scale that was finally decided on goes from 2,000 to 3,000. So the numbers will be somewhere in between 2,000 and 3,000. But we'll get the overall scale score. This mock-up is showing language for the levels. We're not going to get language, not this year. We'll get the 1, 2, 3, and 4, the number for the performance levels. That will show up on the interims. We will also get a visual that shows the kids' performance, right, in where it is on that scale. So we'll get that visual. For the comprehensives, the ones that mirror the summative, then we will also get for each of the claims that are covered. So this particular report has claims for concepts and procedures, problem solving and modeling and data analysis, and communicating and reasoning. So for each of those claims, you'll also get a separate score that shows whether the student is at or near standard or below standard, along with some language that will explain it. For the blocks, you're going to get something that looks more like this because it's just a small piece, right? So it'll be, they're all at claim level is the farthest down that the reporting will go for teachers. And I know many, many teachers are interested in having information back at the standards level, but the reality is if you, think about the comprehensive, if you were going to give information back at the standard level, those kids would be testing for 2 or 3 days. There aren't the number of items at any particular standard to be able to give information back at a standard level. So these tests are not, they're not diagnostic. They're really intended to support your local assessment system. Yes?
Mary, I just want a clarification. So you said when the students give back the report and we look at it, they're gonna get a score for each one of the claims?
Yes.
Okay, however, on this mock-up for mathematics,
The-
they combine claim 2 and claim 4.
They do. Yeah.
So it won't be for each of the claims, it'll be 1 and then 2 and 4 are together?
That's true. Well, they do, if you think about, I'm not prepared to go into the claims in that much detail. And I'm not remembering the numbers, but particularly for math, there are some claims that apply to claim one. Oh, I need the slide to be able to speak to this one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to go there with that one. My big message is, though, okay, with this, is that in order for teachers, I think this comes to bear with what you said, is that for us to make sense of these reports, teachers are going to need to have a good handle on how the assessment targets, right, relate to the standards because they're essentially the same, and then understand how those assessment targets feed up into the claims in order for them to make sense out of this kind of report that's coming back. And I really think that there will be resources provided along with maybe not the interim reports in the short term, but definitely for the summative reports that are coming back to help people understand how to interpret them and how to make good use of them.
Could you say that again? Do you just need to know how the assessment targets feed to the?
Right. They need to have a good grip. So the assessment targets, so if you go back to the summative, there are a lot of resources on the Smarter Balanced website. One of them those are the blueprints, and those are also available on the CDE website, the blueprints, the ELA blueprints and the math blueprints. But on the summative test site, they have resources. It's like 120 pages, and I would never give that to a classroom teacher. But if you look at it, they explain the classroom targets, right, which line up exactly with the Common Core big standards. And then those assessment targets, they describe how the assessment targets have been used. They had to essentially take the targets and devise claims in order to be able to design the test. So it's all about test design.
And this
And
is
then
the summative thing? This is in the summative?
this is on the Smarter Balanced test
Oh, I see.
site,
Okay.
smarterbalance.org. If you look, it's a whole other presentation, guys. I can't go into that today. I'm sorry. But I'm happy to come back because we are trying to, we've done 2 different workshops with teachers to help them, understand the relationship. And I'm just saying that that is something that's going to happen, I think, for teachers to feel comfortable using this information. Sorry. It's another learning moment for your teachers. It's a long progression, it is. It's just going to take us all time to get there. So the good news, too, for those of you who have student monitoring systems in place, do you use things like Illuminate, or I don't even know what's out there anymore? Those kinds of systems. So the interim assessment data files, you will be able to take those and import those into your local assessment systems and be able to report them as part of the other data that you're collecting. So these are the things: the name, the overall score, and the performance attained at the claim level. So I'm going to talk here about the logins that are required for the interims. And we talked about this a little bit, but let me make it explicit here. I probably didn't talk about this yet. To get in to administer the interims, you're going to need a TOMS login to set up test sessions. You're also going to need the TOMS login to do any hand scoring if you're using one of those hand scoring modules. To see the reports, because the data is held by Smarter Balanced, you're going to need the login that goes into that we now think of as the digital library login. I wish CDE had labeled it the Smarter Balanced login to start with. That would have made it easier, because that same login is going to get you into whatever reporting module comes out tomorrow or next week, right? Or no. Well, next week is next month.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid saying March. So, and this particular PDF is also available at CDE's website, so you can take a look at it there. So really what that means is you're going to have both logins in place for any teachers that want to actively use the interims. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to quickly go through suggested uses for the interims. So we're thinking that the piloting the blocks, if you have any teachers that are enthusiastic, encourage them to take a look at the rest of their curriculum for the year and use those. We think that it's going to be a positive experience for people who do it because they're going to be able to take a look at their kids and get a sense of how long it takes those kids to deal with specific item types, and therefore gauge how long the kids might need taking the summative assessment. So there are a few districts that are giving the comprehensives to all of their kids ahead of time, which completely blows me away, but good for them. The accessibility supports, there's a really nice feature built into the interim assessments in that the test administrator can change the accessibility supports during the test, right? This doesn't happen anywhere else. So I'll use the color contrast again, If I've been assigned magenta and black and it's not working for me, the test administrator can change it to yellow on blue on the fly. Or, maybe that people thought I could use stacked translations, but when I'm in there, actually my, grip on Spanish is not really good enough for it to be valuable to me, and it's getting in the way. So the TA could turn that off, right? So it's an opportunity again for you to interact with the students and really get those test settings just as good as they can be. And that only happens in the interims, and it doesn't stick. So if a TA changes them, right, that change is not going to show up on the summative assessment. What's in TOMS is going to always be what shows up. So the local scoring, we also think, going in and scoring those things is really going to build up teacher knowledge and also comfort with that process of online scoring for next year. And also for district level people, you'll get a sense of, how long does it take to score, the research block in 4th grade, right? How much time is it going to take teachers to do a group of 25 kids? So that's good knowledge to have going forward. Really, all of it, we're hoping that you'll collect information and use it for planning for next year, how you might, see the interims and the blocks fitting into your system. Is the district going to keep control over when the comprehensives are administered? Are you going to leave the blocks up to individual classroom teachers? Do grade levels want to, do blocks at a certain time so that they can look at all of the kids across a grade level or in a content area? It's those kind of questions that you might want to be thinking about now, between now and the beginning of next year. So I just wanted to share with you what I'm hearing so far. There are some districts, Inglewood is a good example, where they're just giving the comprehensives to all of their kids before the summative test starts. I've got 2 little districts in Northern California that the teachers wanted to do the comprehensive assessments with their kids because they wanted to see how well prepared the students were. I'm just sharing with you because I was surprised. I thought these were coming out so late that nobody would tackle the comprehensives. There are some districts that are going to wait and give the comprehensives after the summative assessment. Those districts that, no, here's why. Because they don't want to do it before the summative because they're early. They're going to do it after the summative because they want to see how kids do on it more towards the end of the year. And they also want to take a look at it because a lot of them are using things like MAP. So they want to compare the results against what they're getting from their other tests that they're paying for and see which one they want to keep. So that's happening too. That's happening with both, and there are teachers that are planning to use the blocks after too.